The night my parents shut the door on a 12-year-old, the sound wasn't loud. It was soft, final, like a coffin lid settling. It was January 14th, 2016. I remember because my phone screen still shows the date burned into the screenshot. I never delete. The porch light flickered. The air was sharp enough to sting. And my little cousin Lily stood on the welcome mat with a backpack digging into her shoulders. She hadn't cried yet. That came later. My mom didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "We can't take her in," she said, one hand already on the door frame. "This isn't our responsibility." Lily looked past her into the warm hallway. The house smelled like pot roast. Someone was laughing in the living room. Normal life, just not for her. "Please," Lily whispered. Grandma said. My dad cut her off. "Your grandma doesn't get to decide what happens in this house." And then he looked straight at me, daring me to argue. I didn't. That's the part that still eats at me. They closed the door while Lily was still standing there. No hug, no jacket, just cold air rushing in and the quiet click of the lock. Lily stayed frozen for a second, like her brain hadn't caught up yet. Then she turned and walked down the steps without looking back. What my parents didn't know, what none of us knew yet, was that someone else was watching this unfold, and she was already dialing her lawyer. If you're into real family stories that spiral fast, hit like or subscribe now. And tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? I found Lily an hour later in my car, parked 2 streets down. She was buckled in, staring at the dashboard, cheeks red, hands shoved under her thighs to keep warm. "They said I was causing problems," she said quietly. I didn't mean to. That sentence hit harder than anything my parents had said. Lily's mom, my aunt, had been arrested that afternoon for a probation violation. Temporary, non-violent, but enough to send Lily scrambling for a place to stay. Social services had given her exactly 1 night to find family. My parents were the last stop. They were also the most image-conscious people I knew. Church board, charity galas, perfect Christmas cards with matching outfits. A 12-year-old with family trouble didn't fit the brand. By morning, my mom was already reframing the story. She didn't want to stay. She told relatives on the phone, pacing the kitchen. We offered options. Options, like what? A sidewalk? When I pushed back, my dad pulled me aside. His voice was calm, practiced. "You don't understand the bigger picture," he said. "Getting involved would have complicated things. Lily needs structure, not chaos. Structure." I shot back. "She needed a bed." He sighed like I was the unreasonable one. "This is why we didn't ask your opinion." That was the first trap. Family pressure disguised as logic. Make you doubt your own eyes, make cruelty sound responsible. That afternoon my phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Is Lily with you?" The message read. I recognized the name immediately when the next text came through. Great-Grandma Ruth. She was 91, sharp as broken glass, and she did not text unless something was very wrong. I called her. "Tell me exactly what happened," she said. No greeting, no softness. I told her everything. The porch, the door, the lock, the silence after. There was a pause. I could hear papers shifting, the scratch of a pen. "So they refused her," Ruth said slowly. "Good, very good." "That doesn't sound good," I said. "Oh, sweetheart," she replied, "it is. Because now they've put it in writing." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I asked them to sign something last year," she said. "They were so eager, so confident." "Sign what?" Another pause. Longer this time. "A family responsibility agreement," Ruth said. "Attached to my will." The line went quiet. Then she added almost kindly, "And now they've broken it." I looked at Lily in the passenger seat, asleep at last, forehead against the window. And for the first time since that door closed, I realized my parents weren't in control of this story anymore. By January 16th, my parents had already rewritten history. At church that Sunday, people stopped me between pews with sympathetic smiles. "We heard about Lily," one woman whispered. "Such a shame. Kids these days are complicated." That was the word spreading like perfume. Light, vague, impossible to argue with. My mom sat 2 rows ahead of me, posture perfect, coat draped just right. She squeezed my dad's hand during the sermon, the picture of unity. When the pastor talked about charity and family, she nodded at all the right moments. After service, I overheard her near the coffee urn. "We wanted to help," she said softly to Mrs. Klein, head of the fundraising committee. "But there are boundaries. We have to protect our household." Protect it from what? A 12-year-old with a backpack? That afternoon, my phone buzzed again. "Ruth." "They're lying. Good. Keep letting them." I drove Lily to Ruth's house that evening. It was an old colonial, warm and crowded with furniture that smelled like lemon oil and thyme. Ruth sat in her armchair, cardigan buttoned wrong, eyes sharp as ever. She looked Lily over carefully. "You're thinner than your pictures," she said. Lily shrugged. "I didn't eat much last week." Ruth's jaw tightened. She turned to me. "Did they know she'd been skipping meals?" "Yes." "Did that stop them?" "No." Ruth nodded once like she'd expected that answer. She reached for a manila envelope on the side table but didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, she asked Lily gentle questions. School, friends, what she liked to read. Lily relaxed just a little. When Ruth smiled at her, it felt earned. Later in the kitchen, Ruth lowered her voice. "They signed the agreement in March," she said. "Your parents. Your uncle, too. They wanted assurances." "Assurances of what?" I asked. "That family would stay family," she replied. "In writing." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. The next day, the pressure started. My dad called me at work. "You need to bring Lily back," he said. "No hello." "Back where?" I asked. "Social services," he snapped. "You're overstepping. Mom's getting calls." "From who?" "People asking questions," he said. "You're making us look bad." There it was, the real fear. By Wednesday, the humiliation turned public. A Facebook post went up on my mom's page. A long one, carefully worded. No names, no specifics. "Sometimes loving someone means saying no. Please respect our family's privacy during this difficult time." The comments poured in. Heart emojis, prayers, applause for her strength. Lily saw it that night. She didn't cry. She just stared at the screen, face blank. "I guess I really am the problem," she said. That broke something in me. I screenshotted everything. The post, the comments, the timestamps. Then I forwarded them to Ruth. Her reply came fast. "Excellent. Digital footprints are hard to erase." Thursday morning, my parents escalated. They showed up at Ruth's house unannounced. I heard the doorbell and knew somehow it was them. My mom's smile was tight. "We're concerned," she said, stepping inside without waiting to be invited. "This situation is getting out of hand." Ruth didn't offer them seats. "You shut a door on a child," Ruth said calmly. "That's the situation." My dad cleared his throat. "With all respect, Ruth, you don't have the full picture." Ruth finally smiled. "It wasn't warm." "Oh, I have receipts," she said. "I always keep receipts." My mom's eyes flicked to the manila envelope on the table. "What is this really about?" she asked, voice sharp now. "Money?" Ruth leaned forward. "It's about promises, and what happens when polished people break them." Silence filled the room, thick and heavy. As they left, my dad turned back to me. His voice dropped. "If you keep this up," he said, "you're choosing sides." I watched their car pull away, my hands shaking. That night, Ruth finally slid the envelope across the table, to me, but stopped short of opening it. "Not yet," she said. "First, let them dig the hole a little deeper." I stared at the envelope, my name handwritten on the front, and I realized the trap had already closed. The envelope stayed sealed for 3 more days. Ruth kept it on the dining room table, right in plain sight like bait. Every time I passed it, my pulse spiked. Thick manila, my name in her slanted handwriting. Inside it, answers. Or weapons. Maybe both. Meanwhile, my parents didn't slow down. They doubled down. On January 19th, my dad emailed me from his work account. Subject line: "This has gone far enough." He CC'd my mom and my uncle. And this part made my stomach flip, the family attorney. "We are formally requesting that Lily be returned to state custody until appropriate arrangements can be made," the email read. "Your interference is creating instability and potential legal exposure for all of us." Legal exposure. They were already laying the groundwork. I forwarded the email to Ruth without comment. Her response came an hour later. "Perfect timing. I was hoping they'd bring lawyers into this." That evening, Ruth finally told me the part she'd been holding back. "In 1998, she said, pouring tea with steady hands, "your grandfather rewrote his estate plan. He'd seen too many families fracture over money. So we added conditions." "Conditions?" I asked. She nodded. "Behavioral clauses, education support, care obligations. If a minor blood relative is in need, immediate family is required to provide temporary shelter. Refusal triggers penalties." I swallowed. "Penalties like forfeiture," Ruth said simply. My chest tightened. "They knew this?" "They begged for it," she replied. "They said it proved they were responsible people." That night, Lily overheard more than she should have. She sat on the stairs, hugging her knees. "Are they going to take me away?" she asked. I crouched in front of her. "No, not while I'm breathing." She hesitated. "Is this my fault?" That question hit harder than the cold porch ever had. "No," I said firmly. "This is about adults making choices. Bad ones." The next day, the second twist landed. Ruth's lawyer, Daniel Mercer, came by. Late 40s, calm voice, eyes that missed nothing. He spread documents across the table like a magician laying out cards. "Your parents didn't just refuse shelter," he said. "They documented it." My heart dropped. "How?" "Text messages," he replied. "To Ruth, to your uncle, to me." He slid one across. "We are not equipped to handle Lily's situation. This is not our responsibility." My mom's number, time-stamped, clear as day. "That counts as formal refusal," Daniel said. "Especially given the agreement." I looked at Ruth. "So, what happens now?" Ruth leaned back. "Now we stop warning them." Pressure intensified fast. By Friday, my parents called a family meeting. Mandatory. Their house. Sunday afternoon. "You should come," my mom said on the phone, syrupy sweet. "We need to clear the air." I heard the trap immediately. "They're going to corner you," Ruth said after I told her. Emotionally, publicly. "Then why go?" I asked. She smiled. "Because witnesses matter." Sunday came gray and heavy. Their living room was full. My uncle, 2 aunts, cousins pretending not to stare. Lily stayed with Ruth. Thank God. My dad stood by the fireplace, hands clasped, like he was about to give a TED talk. "We're concerned about the narrative forming," he began. "This family has always valued unity." "Unity," my mom echoed, "and discretion." I spoke calmly. "You shut the door on a child." My uncle jumped in. "You're exaggerating." "That's when my dad played his next card. We've consulted counsel," he said. "And unless Lily is returned to state placement by Tuesday, we may have to pursue formal action against interference." The room went silent. I felt every eye on me, waiting for me to fold. Instead, I said, "Okay." My parents exchanged a quick, confident glance. They thought they'd won. What they didn't know, what they couldn't see yet, was that Tuesday was the deadline Ruth had been waiting for, because that was the day the will clause activated, and the day Daniel scheduled the meeting they could not dodge. Tuesday, January 26th, arrived with surgical precision. My parents thought it was just another obligation. One more polished event they could dominate with smiles and posture. The invitation said Founders Circle Appreciation Dinner, hosted at the Downtown Historical Society, black tie optional, donor list thick with names my parents loved to be seen beside. They didn't know Ruth had funded half the building. They didn't know Daniel Mercer had requested the guest list. And they definitely didn't know Lily's name was already printed quietly on a legal agenda. Ruth insisted on coming in person. Daniel offered to wheel her in, but she refused help. She wore navy pearls and a brooch that had survived 3 wars and 1 inheritance fight. "Let them see me walk," she said. "It reminds people I'm still alive." The ballroom smelled like champagne and lemon polish. Soft jazz hummed under polite laughter. My parents were already there, shaking hands, basking. My mom's laugh rang just a little too loud, overconfident. She spotted me and stiffened. Then she saw Ruth. For half a second, the mask slipped. "Ruth!" my mom said, recovering fast. "What a surprise." Ruth smiled. "Is it?" Dinner passed in a blur of speeches and applause. Then Daniel stood. "If I could have your attention," he said calmly. "This won't take long." The room quieted. Silverware stilled. Daniel adjusted his glasses. "I represent Ruth Holloway, one of the principal benefactors of this institution. She's asked me to address a family matter that intersects with donor obligations." My dad's smile froze. "This is not the time," my mom began. Daniel continued unbothered. On March 3, 2015, several members of the Holloway family entered into a family responsibility agreement. A murmur rippled through the room. Ruth stood slowly. The room went silent. "This agreement," she said, voice steady, "was simple. If a minor blood relative required temporary shelter, immediate family would provide it. No excuses, no optics." My dad laughed nervously. "Ruth, this is inappropriate." She looked at him. "So was shutting a door on a child." Daniel raised the document. On January 14, 2016, Lily Holloway was formally refused shelter by 2 signatories. He read the text message aloud, word for word. My mom went pale. "This refusal," Daniel continued, "triggered Clause 7, immediate suspension of discretionary distributions. Retroactive review of prior gifts." The room buzzed. Phones came out. Whispers spread. My dad stood abruptly. "This is extortion." Ruth didn't flinch. "No, this is accountability." Daniel finished quietly. "Effective immediately, trust access is frozen pending review. Additional consequences will be communicated privately." The room had turned. My parents stood there exposed. No smiles, no spin. And then my mom did the one thing she always did when cornered. She cried. "Why are you doing this to us?" she asked Ruth, voice trembling. "We're family." Ruth's reply was soft but lethal. Family doesn't leave a 12-year-old in the cold. I looked around the room. People I'd grown up seeing at holidays were staring at my parents like strangers. As we walked out, my dad hissed, "This isn't over." Ruth squeezed my hand. "Oh, it is. They just don't know it yet." Outside, the night air felt clean. Cold but clean. My phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. They're panicking. Which means the next move will be sloppy. I thought of Lily asleep at Ruth's house, and I knew the exposure had only just begun. By Wednesday morning, the story had leaked. Not the version my parents rehearsed. The real one. A board member's spouse had posted a vague but pointed status. "If you abandon family, don't be surprised when the truth finds a microphone." Comments filled in the blanks fast. Screenshots circulated. Names whispered. By noon, my mom's charity committee had quietly postponed her leadership role. That's when the panic set in. My phone rang nonstop. Missed calls from my dad. Voicemails from my mom that swung wildly. Anger, tears, bargaining. "Please," one message said, voice cracking. "This has gone too far. Think about what this is doing to us. Us, not Lily, never Lily." Ruth watched me listen, her expression unreadable. "They're afraid of daylight," she said. "That's good." Our first ally stepped forward that afternoon. Judge Evelyn Carter, retired family court, old friend of Ruth's. She came by for tea. No robe, no ceremony, just quiet authority. "I won't intervene improperly," she said, folding her hands. "But I will advise. And I will testify if necessary." That mattered. Credibility changes everything. Daniel arrived next carrying a slim folder. "They've hired a crisis firm," he said. "Which means they're about to spin." Spin came fast. A local blogger published an anonymous tip. "Sources say a minor was unsafe due to behavioral issues." I felt sick reading it. Lily was doing homework at the table, humming to herself. Daniel didn't even blink. "Defamation," he said, "and provably false." Ruth nodded. "Released the school letter." The receipt hit the internet an hour later. A formal note from Lily's school. "Counselor. Dated January 12th, praising her attendance, grades, and conduct. No issues, no flags. Just a scared kid caught in adult chaos." Comments turned brutal. "So the parents lied? Who turns away a child? This is disgusting." That night, my dad showed up at Ruth's house alone. He looked smaller without the audience. "I'll fix this," he said, standing in the doorway. "I'll say we misunderstood, that Lily refused help." Ruth's voice was calm. "You already put it in writing." He swallowed. "What do you want?" That was the wrong question. Before Ruth could answer, Lily stepped into the hallway. She looked at him, really looked. "You didn't want me," she said quietly. "So stop pretending now." He had no reply. After he left, Ruth finally opened the envelope with my name on it. Inside were copies of the agreement, the will clause, and one additional document I hadn't expected, a handwritten letter from Ruth, dated years ago. "If you're reading this," it began, "it means someone failed a child." My hands shook. "If you're enjoying this story, like and subscribe," Ruth said gently, almost amused. "And tell them where you're watching from. Accountability likes witnesses." The next morning, Daniel called early. "They've requested mediation," he said. "And they're offering something." "What?" I asked. "Guardianship," he replied. "Temporary, with conditions." My stomach turned. "They think that fixes it?" "They think it looks good," he said. "Which means they still don't get it." Ruth leaned over, eyes sharp. "Tell them we'll meet." I looked up. "Why?" "Because," she said, "the final receipt deserves an audience." The mediation was scheduled for Friday, and for the first time since that door slammed shut, I saw fear, not anger, in my parents' eyes. They knew something was coming. They just didn't know how unforgivable it would be. Friday's mediation didn't feel like mediation. It felt like a courtroom with the volume turned down and the stakes turned up. The conference room smelled like burnt coffee and copier toner. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. My parents sat side by side at the long table. Perfectly coordinated, neutral colors, calm faces, hands folded. Their attorney, A smooth man with a silver tie clip smiled too much. Ruth arrived last. Daniel pulled out her chair. Judge Carter took a seat quietly against the wall, notebook in hand. She wasn't speaking, but her presence shifted the air. The mediator cleared his throat. We're here to discuss temporary guardianship arrangements for Lily Holloway. My mom nodded quickly. We're prepared to step in, she said. Despite everything, she is family. Lily wasn't there. That was intentional. Daniel leaned forward. Before offers are discussed, my client has requested that the record reflect the sequence of events. He didn't wait for permission. January 14th, 2016, he began, voice steady. At 7:42 p.m., Lily Holloway was denied entry to the home of her aunt and uncle. This refusal was verbal, witnessed, and later confirmed in writing. My dad shifted in his chair. Daniel held up the printed text message. I'll read it aloud. My mom's breath caught. We are not equipped to handle Lily's situation. This is not our responsibility. The words sounded uglier in the room than they ever had on a screen. That message, Daniel continued, triggered Clause 7 of the Family Responsibility Agreement. Their attorney jumped in. We dispute the applicability. Ruth raised her hand. The room stilled. Read the clause, she said. Daniel did, slowly, clearly, every word landing like a gavel. Failure to provide temporary shelter to a minor blood relative in need will result in immediate suspension of trust distributions, review of prior gifts, and reassignment of custodial authority as deemed appropriate by the grantor. My mom shook her head. This is being taken out of context. Ruth looked at her. Explain the context where a child deserves the cold. Silence. Daniel slid another document across the table. This is Lily's school counselor's letter. No behavioral issues. No safety concerns. Then another. Police report confirming the mother's arrest was temporary and nonviolent. Then another. Screenshots of the public statements made online implying Lily was unstable. My dad's attorney frowned. Those posts were anonymous. Daniel nodded. And traced. That was the moment the room turned. My dad leaned forward. What do you want? He asked again, voice tight. Ruth didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. I want Lily protected from people who care more about appearances than people, she said. And I want you to stop pretending this is about generosity. The mediator cleared his throat nervously. Perhaps we can refocus on... No, Judge Carter said calmly from the wall. First time she'd spoken. This is the focus. Every head turned. She closed her notebook. I've seen children displaced for less. And adults excused for more. This documentation is thorough. My mom's eyes filled again. We were scared, she said. We didn't know what to do. Ruth's reply was immediate. Then you should have opened the door. Daniel stood. Given the breach, my client proposes permanent. Guardianship be assigned to a neutral party, my client herself, with the narrator as secondary. All trust distributions to the parents remain suspended pending audit. My dad shot to his feet. You can't do this. Ruth met his gaze. I already did. The mediator swallowed. I'll need to document. Do, Ruth said. Carefully. As we stood to leave, my mom reached for my arm. Please, she whispered. We're still your parents. I gently pulled away. Parents don't do what you did. Outside, the winter air hit my lungs hard. I realized I was shaking, not from fear, but from release. Daniel checked his phone. Word's spreading, he said. Fast. Ruth smiled faintly. Good. Because the receipts had been read aloud, and there was no going back. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They landed in waves. The first hit my parents' finances. Within a week, their discretionary trust distributions were frozen pending audit. Credit lines they'd relied on for years suddenly required review. My dad's tone changed overnight, from outrage to careful, from threats to questions. The second wave was reputational. My mom's charity quietly announced new leadership. The gala committee removed her name from the website without comment. Friends stopped calling. Invitations dried up. Polished people know when to step back from a mess. The third wave was legal. Daniel confirmed what Ruth already knew. Prior gifts were under review. Not revoked yet. Reviewed. The uncertainty alone was enough to keep my parents awake at night. Through all of it, Lily stayed with Ruth. At first, she moved like a guest. Shoes lined up too neatly, asking permission for everything. Then slowly she exhaled. She laughed at dinner. She argued about bedtime. She left her backpack in the hallway like she belonged. One night, I found her in the living room with Ruth. working through old photo albums. "Is this really your house?" Lily asked. Ruth smiled. "For now, and as long as you need." Lily hesitated. "They won't make me go back?" Ruth took her hand. "No one who closed a door gets to reopen it." That was the emotional peak, not the courtroom, not the gala, this quiet promise. My parents tried to come back anyway. They sent a letter, handwritten. No lawyer letterhead this time. "We understand mistakes were made," it read. "We hope in time bridges can be rebuilt." No apology, no Lily's name. Ruth read it once, then slid it into the fire. "Closure doesn't require permission," she said. The audit concluded in early March. Daniel called me first. "They're not happy," he said. "But it's fair. Some funds reinstated, some permanently reassigned. And one clause, Ruth's favorite, added permanently. Any future refusal of care to a minor voided access entirely. My parents signed the acknowledgement without protest. They had learned. Lily started school nearby. New backpack, new routine. The first day, she came home glowing. "They have a library," she said. A real one. I watched her talk with her hands, confident now, present. That night, Ruth sat beside me on the porch. "You did right," she said quietly. "Even when it cost you." I thought of my parents. Of the door. Of the lock. "I didn't do enough at first," I said. Ruth squeezed my hand. "You stayed." That mattered. Spring changed everything. Not all at once, slowly. Like light creeping through a room that had been shut too long. By April, Lily had her own space at Ruth's house. Not a guest room anymore. Her room. Posters on the wall. A desk by the window. She started calling it home without stopping to correct herself. I helped where I could. Homework at the kitchen table. School drop-offs. Late-night talks when her thoughts got loud. She was still 12, still fragile in quiet ways. But the fear had drained out of her voice. Stability does that. Ruth's health dipped around the same time. Nothing dramatic, just the kind of reminders age sends, when you forget it's watching. More doctor visits, shorter walks, longer naps. One afternoon, while Lily was at school, Ruth asked me to sit with her in the study. "I need you to be ready," she said. "For what?" I asked. "For after." She slid another folder across the desk. Updated paperwork, guardianship confirmation, educational trust details, medical directives. "I want everything boring and clear," she said. No room for theatrics. I nodded, throat tight. Meanwhile, my parents made one last attempt at image repair. They hosted a brunch. Perfect photos, perfect smiles, a carefully worded post. "Family is complicated, but forgiveness is powerful." The comments were thin. Someone replied, "Does forgiveness come with a spare bedroom?" The post disappeared an hour later. They reached out to Lily directly once. A text from my mom. "We miss you. We'd love to see you." Lily stared at the screen for a long time, then handed me the phone. "Can you tell her no?" she asked. "I don't know how." I typed it for her. Simple, polite, final. "Lily isn't ready for contact. Please respect that." There was no reply. By May, the noise had faded. New scandals replaced ours. Attention moved on. But the damage didn't vanish. It settled. Ruth watched Lily plant tomatoes in the backyard one afternoon, smiling. "She's growing," Ruth said. "So are you." I laughed softly. "I don't feel grown." "Good," Ruth replied. "Means you're paying attention." That night, Ruth slept longer than usual. And I knew, not fear, just knowing. The house was quiet. Lily's door closed, the clock ticking loud enough to count. Ruth squeezed my hand before drifting off. "You kept the promise," she whispered. "What promise?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "The one they broke." I stayed there until morning. Ruth passed on a quiet Thursday in early June. No alarms, no chaos, just morning light slipping through the curtains and a hand that finally let go. Lily was at school. That mattered to Ruth. She'd planned it that way, I think. She believed children deserved normal mornings. The house felt different immediately, not empty but finished. Like a sentence with a period instead of a question mark. The will was executed exactly as written. No drama, no surprises, because Ruth hated surprises when they involved people who liked to perform. Guardianship transferred cleanly. Lily stayed, permanently. The trust funded her education, her care, her future. Boring, solid, safe. My parents contested nothing. They attended the service, sat in the back, said very little. My mom cried quietly, real tears this time. Not for appearances, but for something she couldn't get back. Afterward, my dad approached me near the hydrangeas. "We never meant for it to go this far," he said. I looked at him. Lily looked. It went exactly as far as it needed to, I replied. That was the boundary. Clear, calm, unmovable. Lily didn't speak to them. She didn't need to. A month later, she asked if we could repaint her room. We chose a soft green. She taped Ruth's favorite quote above the desk. Promises mean nothing if they vanish when inconvenient. Life settled into something steady. School projects, dentist appointments, arguments about screen time, the boring miracles of safety. One night, Lily asked me a question I'd been waiting for. Do you think they ever loved me? She said. I answered honestly. I think they love the idea of family, not the work of it. She nodded, thought about it, then smiled faintly. I'm glad Ruth did the work. Me too. Years from now, Lily will probably remember the door, the cold, the silence, but she'll also remember who opened theirs. If you stayed with this story to the end, thank you. Like and subscribe if you believe family is what you do, not what you post. And tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? Because stories like this don't end with revenge. They end with stability. And sometimes, that's the most unforgivable thing of all. To people who thought they could walk away without consequence.